We head over from Montreal to Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin for the United States Grand Prix, round 8 of the 2016 FF1M season. A little bit southwest from Montreal is the state of Wisconsin, and that's a rather convenient one because 2016 in general has been the battle of the southwest teams. Two of them, Mitchell and Tornado, they sit just 3 points apart in the Constructors' Championship. Although the last race in Canada, we've seen a little Danish twist because Kevin Magnussen is just 6 points off of the championship leader Thomas Gonzalez, having won at Montreal from pole position and in the process setting his first ever fastest lap. There's a map of the Road America circuit over 6.5 kilometres long, 14 turns, 47 laps, so not as many as some on the calendar such as Interlagos, but it's a fast one. 2 stops expected all around, and lap record 1 minute 32.575, that was set by Nico Rosberg, who was driving for Willows in 2015, and that's another nice little segue because Nico Rosberg at the moment has 32 pole positions in his FF1M career, tied with Michael Schumacher and Fernando Alonso for the most pole positions, and he's looking to break that record going into the qualifying session. Friday saw Lewis Hamilton top the Friday practice session. Not just that, but it was Tobias's birthday when the Friday results were posted. But then Saturday, free practice number 2 did see Nico Rosberg take to the fore, some 1.4 seconds, or maybe 1.2 seconds quicker than Lewis Hamilton. Has he broken the record? Yes, he has. Nico Rosberg takes his 33rd career pole position with Lewis Hamilton alongside him, and it will be a much needed result if Rosberg can convert that into a win because he's been a bit ropey of late. There's the championship leader Thomas Gonzalez starting 3rd on the grid ahead of one of the drivers of the season, Daniel Ricciardo, 4th on the grid. Sergio Perez in the other Tornado will start 5th ahead of Anthony the Coast. That's Antonio Felix da Costa starting a very impressive 6th on the grid, and they're 7th on the grid, the Canadian Grand Prix winner, Kevin Magnussen, alongside Felipe Massa. And Magnussen was actually the first repeat winner of the 2016 season. Cooper Lee down in 9th, and Sebastian Vettel joining him 10th on the grid. Kimi Raikkonen in the other Meister is 11th ahead of Robert Kubica, and Kubica got a point last time out in Canada, so he'll be looking to maintain that form. Itsuki Yoshida qualifying quite well in the Shake and Bake in 13th place ahead of Alonso, who took 3rd in Montreal last time out. Carlos Sainz, the highest of the 2 GRMs, starts 15th ahead of teammate Bottas in 16th. 17th on the grid is Romain Grosjean, who put in an impressive drive of his own in Canada, went from 15th to 4th, staying out of trouble mostly. Was a small incident somewhere at the final chicane. Hulkenberg 18th, unlucky Nico Hulkenberg, and Nicholas Latifi not qualifying so well. He was 1.4 seconds off of Nico Rosberg's qualifying time, which suggests to me that Pedersen may have gone a bit qualifying heavy on Rosberg for this meeting. The remaining runners, Verstappen 20th, Van Dorn 21st, and last on the grid, Jean-Eric Verne in the other Gajera. That's the view of the Carousel corner, and now we switch to the Road America straight, the start-finish straight. Nico Rosberg pole position on the left, Lewis Hamilton on the right. 5 lights are on, and the 5 lights go out. And who gets the best start out of the top 3? Well, Thomas Gonzalez got away very well, and he's in the slipstream firmly of Nico Rosberg going into the first corner. But Rosberg looks like he's going to hold on. Who's going to take second into the first corner? Well, it's round the outside for Lewis Hamilton of Thomas Gonzalez, and the Mitchell maintains 2nd place on the grid. 2 Tornadoes, 3rd and 4th. Perez has gotten away well. He's gone from 5th to 4th. And looking further back, Ricciardo down to 5th, but 6th, 7th and 8th as you were before. Now then, Rosberg versus Hamilton going into the Moraine corner. And can Lewis Hamilton take the lead? He can, and the 2 Tornadoes going at it. Nearly the 2 Andrews going at it as well. It's Perez who's up to 3rd, so he outbraked Thomas Gonzalez going into Moraine. And Gonzalez struggling on the curb. He's lost another couple of positions to Da Costa and Ricciardo. Da Costa's up in 4th place. Great start from the Portuguese driver. Obviously getting a good run down the Moraine sweep and into the Moraine corner as Lewis Hamilton and Nico Rosberg going through the carousel. Now then, there's a long flat-out section towards Canada corner. Rosberg's going to have a look into the kink. It's not an overtaking spot, and he's tucked back in before the kink, so he's going to get a good run going down this straight into Canada corner. Hamilton defending the inside line, and Rosberg knows that one too well. So it's Lewis Hamilton who is now in the lead of the race, having taken that from Rosberg. That was going through into Moraine corner. That was through the Bill Thunder Valley, I think that's called, but I'll double check that one. Thunder Valley and then Bill Mitchell Bend, that's the one. That's between turns 12 and 14, but onto lap 2 now, and Rosberg up the inside, and Sergio Perez is in the mix as well. He's right behind these two as the two Andrews going at it, but into the first corner, Nico Rosberg retakes the lead of the race, and Sergio Perez is very, very close behind these two, and could make it a three-way scrap for the lead of the race. And I do wonder what everyone has taken in terms of setup for this race, and in terms of their ERS race usage as well. Apparently FJR have gone full race ERS, as Lewis Hamilton now at the inside once again into Moraine, side by side coming out of Moraine, and Perez takes advantage of that and he takes second place off of Nico Rosberg. Now into the hurry down section. There's a left and then the right, and now let's see what happens next as Thomas Gonzalez chases the two Andrews. And Sergio Perez looking at the race lead going through hurry downs, and now into the carousel. Snap on for a ride around this very fast, more than 180 degree right-hander. It's very quick. And Sergio Perez is right behind Lewis. He's going to think about it into the kink just to let Lewis know he's there. He's had to back out of that one, and is that going to give Rosberg another opportunity to retake that position off of Sergio Perez? It's frantic stuff in these opening few stages. And look in the background, Thomas Gonzalez having a look at Daniel Ricciardo going into Canada corner. Now through Thunder Valley and the Bill Mitchell Bend. And Nico Rosberg right behind Sergio Perez still. And Hamilton's starting to get away now because Perez had to back out of that one through the kink. And now Rosberg is going to try and put Perez under a bit of pressure as Hamilton, as Da Costa sets a new fastest lap of the race. He's having a great outing in Road America. But now Robert Kubica is the driver on the move. I suspect the battling front lot has allowed Kubica to set a fastest lap. Kubica running in 11th place at the moment behind Kimi Räikkönen, and Sebastian Vettel in 9th place. So I'm just trying to see who has had a bad start out of the main drivers, because it's hard to see actually. I think the top 8 is still in the top 8 as Magnussen has a look at Felipe Massa going into Moraine corner. That's for 7th place, and Magnussen taking that position no problem. Magnussen controlled the Canadian Grand Prix very well for his second win of the season and sits on 37 points at the moment. FJR comfortably third in the Constructors' Championship, quite a way behind the two Southwest teams, Mitchell and Tornado. The advantage lies with Tornado by 3 points. As through the carousel, there's Sebastian Vettel having a look at Felipe Massa. Vettel going quite well in this early stage of the race, but Felipe Massa's in the slipstream of Kevin Magnussen as well, so Vettel's going to have to rely on Felipe Massa doing something first, and Magnussen into Canada corner. Massa retakes that position off of Magnussen. Magnussen getting a bit of a poor exit, but he's still there. So let's see Stoffel Vandoorne, what's he been up to? 15th place. Now it was a good start from Stoffel Vandoorne to get up there, but going through the carousel corner, there's a bit of a wobble behind Cooper Lee, and off the track goes Vandoorne, and smash! That was a big one, actually. A lot of wheels coming off of Stoffel, and the wheels pretty safely off the racetrack, so I don't think they're going to affect any of the other runners. So yeah, let's have another look at that one from the outboard shot. So following Cooper Lee, who's not had a good start, that was the driver I was trying to work out who was making a bad start. See, off the track and backs it into the wall, and then the front taking the secondary impact, both front wheels gone. So Stoffel Vandoorne becomes the first retirement of the race, as Nico Rosberg is under pressure from Antonio Felix da Costa. Look at this! Nico Rosberg going through Bill Mitchell Bend. Now into the final corner goes Rosberg. He missed that apex and onto the curb, and alongside now, here comes da Costa, making the challenge for third place, and Rosberg's got both Andrews and Thomas Gonzalez to deal with down the Road America straight. And now into the first corner. What on earth is going to happen? Looking at the timing screens, looks as if da Costa's third and Gonzalez fourth, and Rosberg, there he goes in 5th place, but he's going to try and make amends for that. But first of all, it's Thomas Gonzalez trying to take third place off of Antonio Felix da Costa into Moraine Bend. He's got him, and is Rosberg going to follow through? Not quite. Now then, here comes Daniel Ricciardo trying to catch Rosberg napping, coming out of Moraine and into the hurry down section. Flat right kink, downhill a little bit before a 90 left that leads you onto the carousel. And Sebastian Vettel is on the move because he's up in 7th place now. He's taken Magnussen and Felipe Massa as yellow flags, so Sergio Perez and Hamilton going at it. But I think the yellow flags are to recover Stoffel Vandoorne, so no trouble up at the front. But we've got a battle for the lead now between Lewis Hamilton and Sergio Perez, looking up the inside into Canada, but Hamilton is wise to that now through Thunder Valley and Bill Mitchell. Perez's next opportunity down the main straight, Road America straight. Out of the final corner, and he's right behind the Mitchell driver. Perez looking to redeem himself after what happened in Montreal. He made a pit stop. It was his third of the race, and then immediately crashed on his outlet. But Kevin Magnussen has crashed out somewhere, so one FJR is gone. That's Magnussen's first retirement of the season as Sergio Perez takes the lead of the race. So Perez on the move now, lap 5 now. And let's see what happens. Magnussen... Well, he's got Felipe Massa looking at the inside into the Canada, and a big contact between the two. Goodness me, I wasn't expecting that one. So Magnussen under pressure from Kimi Räikkönen going into the kink. Räikkönen, I don't think that move was really on, and Magnussen nearly flipping it in the process. And I think Kimi, how many count the spins? That is a lot of spins for the Meister. Could we see an on board again of Räikkönen? I don't think so, but yeah, Kevin Magnussen well and truly out of the race thanks to Räikkönen's optimism. Now then, this is Da Costa coming back at Gonzalez for 3rd place into Moraine, and Antonio Felix Da Costa having an absolute belter of a race. Up to 3rd place once again for the Andrew. Could Antonio Felix Da Costa get his first podium in his FF1M career? It would be good for him to get that. But he's got Gonzalez to shake off first of all, and at the moment that looks a bit tricky. Because Andrew are limited to 40% Ray's Earth's use, and Tornado can use up to 100% of Earth's because they are the manufacturer team that... And, off goes Da Costa! Off goes Da Costa at the kink, and he's dropped down to 6th place, so I spoke a bit too soon. And now here comes Sebastian Vettel looking to try and take 6th place off of the Portuguese driver into Canada corner. And he's got him, and... Now, next one is Felipe Massa. So, let's have a look on board with Da Costa. So, you can feel Gonzalez's presence, and yeah, a little bit onto the marbles and onto the grass, but nothing like as serious as Magnussen and Räikkönen. And we've not really had many big accidents this season, so for the moment, let's say that Magnussen and Räikkönen's collision is accident of the season so far. That was Ricciardo we were looking at, passing Rosberg for 4th place as Da Costa looks to try and make amends for his little mistake at the kink in the previous lap as he defends 7th place from Felipe Massa. And this must be Massa under pressure from Fernando Alonso. That's coming out of Carousel, now into the kink. And Megatron customer user of the Excellite limited to 69% Ray's Earth's use. And the Climax customer in the back of the Meister limited to 40%. Interestingly enough though, depending on how much Earth's Tornado were running in Montreal, their top speed was 314 kilometers an hour down the back straight of Montreal, and then going into the back straight, or coming out of the back straight into the final chicane, Andrew's were 315 kilometers an hour, so Andrew got a very slippery car, it seems. And at this circuit is going quite well for them. Both cars in the points as Alonso challenges Felipe Massa going into the first corner. Drop downhill into a right of turn 2. It should really be turn 2 actually. I mean, there is a turn 2 which is a very, very tiny kink between the first and second proper corners, but it's officially listed as turn 3. Now down Moraine into the Moraine corner. And Alonso still challenging Felipe Massa for 8th place. And that's not making it stick. Kubica's out of the race, so that's one Gajera gone. We've seen quite a few accidents. This is going into the first corner. He's got Grosjean coming up alongside him, and there's contact between those two. And upside down goes Kubica. Well, new candidate for accident of the season right there. So Grosjean getting a bit too quickly into Kubica, and a couple of spectacular barrel rolls as a result for Kubica. Let's see it on board with Grosjean. So has a look up the inside of turn 1, brakes a bit later, It's a bit of a racing incident, I think, but ultimately Grosjean wasn't really far enough alongside. But yeah, Grosjean continuing, so he's gotten away with just front wing damage, which is a lot less than what Kubica has suffered. And oh, good grief, that is a front wing gone for Kimi Räikkönen. So 3 cars ultimately involved in that incident, as Sebastian Vettel has a look at Nico Rosberg for 5th place, and Rosberg's struggling at this part because, again, as I speculated before, Pedersen might have gone a bit qualifying heavy on Nico Rosberg's car. Got pole position, his 33rd of his career, but he's struggling at the moment in the race because he's dropping back off the top 4. He's 13.8 seconds off of the race lead now, with Sebastian Vettel and Antonio Felix da Costa quite close behind. But that is the straight line speed of the Mugen showing right there, and they're only limited to 20% race use, whereas Shake and Bake can use up to 100%. So Vettel will have a job trying to get past Nico Rosberg, so he's going to have to get a good run out of a corner and use a lot of slipstream. But here comes Da Costa coming up the inside into Moraine, and Vettel leaves space. Good driving between those two as Alonso takes Felipe Massa for 8th place into Moraine corner as Grosjean comes back into the pits. And we saw Kimi Räikkönen coming into the pits as well, so both of those coming in for repairs after that spectacular 3-way shunt at the first corner. Lap 10, and Perez holds a 5.2 second lead over Lewis Hamilton. And remember, manufacturer climax can use up to 100% ERS, so Tornado at this circuit does seem to have an advantage over Mitchell, who can only use 20% of their race ERS use, and Vettel having a look at Rosberg, and unlike Kubica and Grosjean, no contact between those two. Rounds the second proper corner, and now the long Moraine straight underneath the Sargento bridge, and here comes Vettel looking up the inside now of Rosberg. Let's see the straight line speed difference between these two. But later on the brakes goes Sebastian Vettel up to 5th place, and they both pulled a little bit of a gap over Da Costa, who's now coming under pressure from Fernando Alonso. So maybe Andrew went a little bit too qualifying bias with Da Costa, which is a bit strange considering they're on hard tyres, but both cars fairly competitive in qualifying into the kink, and Da Costa shutting that door quite firmly. He's not letting Alonso through. And Rosberg coming back at Vettel, that straight line speed for the Mugen showing, as Alonso challenges Da Costa for that 7th place. And that battle of the Southwest, Tornado versus Mitchell, it's certainly advantage Tornado at the moment, 1st and 3rd, and Mitchell have a car running in 2nd, but their other driver, Cooper Lee, down in 12th place, not having a good run in Road America, qualified down in 9th, and seemingly with a poor opening lap or two of the race, down in 12th, and behind Valtteri Bottas ahead of Nico Hülkenberg. This is Alonso chasing Da Costa, going through the second proper corner, back onto the Moraine straight. Let's see when Alonso pulls out. It's Andrews very slippery in a straight line, and there you can see it just starting to edge ahead a little bit, but can Alonso be braver on the brakes into Moraine corner, or can Da Costa hang it on round the outside? He certainly can, underneath the Toyota bridge and into the hurry down section. And there in front, that is Nico Rosberg, who's dropped back a little bit from Sebastian Vettel now, as Alonso tries to get up alongside Da Costa down the Road America straight this time. He keeps having to duck back in for some more slipstream. That X-Light's not that quick in a straight line, and that's why Da Costa's hanging on just about. 3 retirements at the moment, and they consist of Robert Kubica, Gojira Mugen, Kevin Magnussen, FJR Judd, and Stoffel Vandoorne Willows Ilmore. And let's have a look at this first before I reveal some news about the engine manufacturers. Alonso not close enough to outbrake Da Costa into Moraine corner. Now at the Toyota bridge, here's Sergio Perez, and he's due in the pits at the end of this lap. That's quite early if that's a 2-stop strategy. End of lap 12. So he's obviously using a lighter fuel load to try and pull out a bit of a gap over Hamilton before coming into the pits for his first of 2 pit stops. And it's a very, very long pit lane as well, but because everyone's doing 2 stops and there's no split strategies of anybody doing 1 or even 3 stops, then it's a bit more fair for the drivers and teams. So news about the engine manufacturers. So it does appear that we are still going to have 5 engine manufacturers for the 2017 season. The word is that all 5 of the engine manufacturer teams have submitted their engine tender. But there is a compression of amount of customers that everyone can use. The top team can only have 1 customer, and the second team can also have 1 customer. This is in the order of the championship, and at the moment in the order it goes Climax, Judd, then Mugen, then Megatron, then Ilmor. And Mugen and Megatron seem likely to have up to 2 customers, and then Ilmor can have up to 3 customers next season. But Climax and Judd, if it stays like this for a while, next few races, then they're only allowed a maximum of 1 customer next season. Let's have a look at Perez getting ahead of Yoshida. That's for 5th place, but of course Perez has made his pit stop. Others still have to make a pit stop, and here comes one of them. Well, it's Lewis Hamilton. He stayed out 4 more laps compared to Sergio Perez, and he'll have newer tyres in his second stint, but Perez may well just have the quicker car overall at Road America. And this is about right, actually, for when you should be making your first of 2 pit stops. And there's a few still needing to make pit stops, and they include Gonzalez, Alonso, Yoshida, Lee, and Sainz. Everyone else, you can see, has made a pit stop already, except for those who have retired. So into his box goes Lewis Hamilton, and taking on a fairly short amount of fuel, so he's going to do a short middle stint, presumably to try and catch up to Perez and do something about the Mexican before the second round of pit stops. So Mitchell going quite aggressive in this middle stint for Lewis. And I think Alonso, it's Yoshida coming into the pits, but I think Alonso was into the pits as well. So for the moment, Gonzalez leads the race, but with a pit stop to make. And just a little word as well on how long the pit stops can take. They can take up to half a minute, probably somewhere between 25 seconds and 30 seconds total pit loss. 1 lap later than Lewis Hamilton, in comes Thomas Gonzalez from the race lead, and probably one of my drivers of the season as well, along with Daniel Ricciardo and Kevin Magnussen. All 3 of those have reason to claim that fame at the moment. Gonzalez has been super consistent, and that's why he leads the championship at the moment. Daniel Ricciardo, because in the much improved Andrew Racing, he's gotten more or less the most out of it, and Kevin Magnussen, possible contender for driver of the season, the only one to have won 2 races this season so far. And through back into second place goes Lewis Hamilton, but he's some 14.4 seconds behind the Tornado, the race-leading Tornado of Sergio Perez, as Gonzalez versus Ricciardo. This could be a battle for 3rd place incoming through the second proper corner down into the Moraine Straight. I don't think Ricciardo's close enough, and indeed I don't think he was. We switch to Fernando Alonso versus Felipe Massa. This is down the Road America Straight into the first corner, and I don't think he's close enough, but no accident this time. I've already seen one Excellite getting into another driver into the first corner, creating mayhem for poor old Robert Kubica, but this is a good run now, and Alonso was thinking about going to the right, but now he's going to the left to try and take Felipe Massa for 8th place. Into Moraine Corner, can Massa hang on round the outside? He certainly can, so that's for the moment 8th place for Felipe Massa, but the Excellite does seem a bit quicker, but it just doesn't have the straight line speed, as out of the race goes Nicholas Latifi. That is a gearbox or drive shaft problem, and you can see he's pulled off at the final corner. And Latifi quite unlucky in the previous race. He'd qualified well, but suffered an early mechanical drama, which meant that he had to do 4 stops, and ultimately that cost him some points. Another driver that did 4 stops in Montreal was Daniel Ricciardo. Speaking of which, he's under pressure from a flying Sebastian Vettel. This shake and bake's come on well in Road America, and that's not the place to overtake, but Vettel's still close behind the Andrew, who did make 4 stops in Montreal. One of them was to replace a broken front wing, but now he's defending that 4th place from Sebastian Vettel, who, again, I must say, is driving very well in this shake and bake, which hasn't been particularly good this season. There's yellow flags out, which must be for the parked Latifi. Now here come the green flags, and into this very, very long main straight. We'll see how much errs the Shake and Bake are running in that Megatron, but compared to the Andrew, which is a very slippery car in a straight line, doesn't seem close enough to make the move into the first corner, and indeed Ricciardo hangs on to that one for now. The gap between Hamilton and Gonzalez is only 1.7 seconds. We could be seeing a battle for second in the next few laps. And I'm just trying to think of the upcoming circuits that are just trying to gauge the performance difference between Tornado and Mitchell, because Mitchell do look to have quite a good car aerodynamically, but their 20% race ERS use is hindering them somewhat, and because Tornado also seem to have a very good car, can use up to 100% ERS, then expect them to perform better at the power circuits such as this one. But for places like the Hungaroring, you should expect Mitchell to be the team to beat. But you never know what other teams could be doing, as Sebastian Vettel once again trying to challenge Daniel Ricciardo going into Canada Corner, former teammates when Ricciardo was a Shake and Bake driver in 2014. Nowadays, Ricciardo is very happily with another team, Andrew Racing, and Sebastian Vettel doing better in this one, but may we see him moving to another team for next season, considering the season he's had so far. Well, he's doing well so far. He's going to try and outbrake Ricciardo into the first corner. Ricciardo leaves him space. Good racing between these two, but at the moment Vettel can't manage to overtake Ricciardo. Here's Hulkenberg on the move in an FJR which is running mode 11 for this race. For those that have seen the previous commentaries, that'll be a bit of a clue as to what mode 11 is, but this is an FJR which isn't running any setup boosts. They ran both test drivers in the Friday practice session, which test drivers cannot test setup as, spin, that's a GRM of Bottas, under pressure from Yoshida going into Canada Corner, and Bottas is going to drop a little bit down the order. Now this is the battle for seconds that was forecast. I think both of these two are actually catching up to Sergio Perez. Hamilton and Gonzalez on fresher tyres than the Mexican, but Gonzalez has the faster car at the moment. Both now less than 10 seconds behind Sergio Perez at the start of lap 27. But up to second place goes Thomas Gonzalez. So we've now got a Tornado 1-2, and that will certainly help them in the Battle of the Southwest. And Da Costa! That's unlucky. That is a mechanical issue for the Andrew driver. And let's see what happens as the marshal pulls away. It's a puncture. That is unlucky for the Portuguese driver, so no points for Da Costa. And also no points so far for this driver. Cooper Lee is not having a good race at all, but here he is in 13th place, looking to overtake Max Verstappen. This is down into the Moraine corner, and that's understeer and half spin for those two. And quite an aggressive battle, but here comes Jean-Eric Verne, looking to try and make a move past both of them. Good move from Jean-Eric, looking to uphold Gojira Honour. And Cooper Lee is going to try and make amends for that. He's going to try and repass Jean-Eric Verne down the main straight. But look at that, the Gojira's got more straight line speed than the Mitchell. Is Gojira... Well, Gojira could be running more than 20% ERS in the race, but Gojira could also have a slipperier car than the Mitchell that we are looking at the moment. I'm just looking at the other race positions. Let's see this overtake first, or overtake attempt from Cooper Lee on Verne into Moraine. Later on the brakes, and Lee retakes Jean-Eric Verne. This time it's for 12th place. And there is a battle for the lead, possibly soon, but Hamilton comes into the pits. So Lewis Hamilton making that first of his second pit stops. The first one to make his second pit stops, let's call it that, as into the pits from the race lead comes Sergio Perez. Went to lap 30, Hamilton was a lap before. So Hamilton's got quite a lot of laps to do on this final set of tyres, as to a certain extent Sergio Perez, because end of lap 30 you've got to do 17 laps on this final set of medium tyres for the Mexican. And where will he rejoin? Well, You see Lewis Hamilton in 4th, so Sergio Perez should rejoin in 3rd place behind Gonzalez and Vettel. Gonzalez and Vettel do have second pit stops to make. We've seen a few other drivers making their second stops, including Ricciardo, Hülkenberg, Massa and Yoshida and Grosjean. I think Grosjean may well do a 3rd pit stop because he came in a bit early to replace a front wing. Max Verstappen also comes into the pits as we see Felipe Massa getting the jump on Fernando Alonso. Oh no, he's not, he's off the track and just about hanged on to that one. But now he's got Alonso and Hülkenberg all over him. So this could get a bit tasty as Gonzalez comes into the pits from the race lead. Alonso looking up the inside into Moraine Bend. Can he outbrake the Brazilian? Not quite. Can Hülkenberg do something about the pair of them? Well, he's going to try and look at the outside of Alonso, going underneath the Toyota bridge. Down to the Hurry Downs. This could well be a battle for the final point if things go to plan for any of these three drivers. And let's just recap what these engine settings are. So, customer climax at the head of these three, up to 40% race as use. Alonso having a look at the inside into the kink, but that's not going to work. And Alonso can use up to 69% race ERS. And the FJR can use up to 100%. Oh, I thought Alonso was going to chop across Hülkenberg going into Canada corner. More pit stops happening. I think Gonzalez is still ahead of Hamilton. But the gap's not that big. It was only 6.4 seconds between Perez and Hamilton, so Gonzalez is quite close for the race lead, as in the slipstream of Massa is Hülkenberg. Alonso having to go back for some more slipstream because the X-Light's not that quick in a straight line into the first corner. Massa hangs on to it. This is now the battle for the final point between Massa, Alonso and Hülkenberg. And just seeing what the rest of the top lot are. Bottas has another pit stop to make, so this is effectively the battle for 7th place. As try again, here comes Fernando Alonso, looking for the inside line into Moraine Bend. And he's outbrakes him this time. Alonso moves up into 8th place. Massa getting it all out of shape at the apex, and that has let Nico Hülkenberg through into 9th place. And Cooper Lee, that's a blown engine in the back of the Mitchell Mugen. So that's a bit of a concern for the Japanese power plant. Well, it's an oil leak, but that is clearly a big smoky fire. Well, a big smoky. Who we're looking at here, Ricciardo versus Vettel for 4th place. Battle for 4th between Ricciardo and Vettel, former shake and bake drivers. Shake and bake teammates, should I say. But you can see Vettel, like his... Oh, up the inside, he's got him. Sebastian Vettel moves up to 4th place in the shake and bake, and possible candidate for driver of the day if he stays there. And what have we got? A battle for 6th now between Rosberg and Alonso. Rosberg's not quick at all in this race. He's nearly a minute behind Sergio Perez, who's only got a 4.1 second lead over his teammate Thomas Gonzalez. So if Gonzalez gets a bit of a move on, then he could challenge his teammate for the race lead. And we've seen in the previous season, 2015, how aggressive Gonzalez can be. The gap's just 3.3 seconds. Gonzalez took 0.8 of a second out of Sergio Perez on that last lap. He's got time to catch him, and as mentioned before, the previous season, he can be an aggressive driver, can Gonzalez. He made contact with Alonso a few times in the Nürburgring and more famously at the Hungaroring when we had the team boss with me in the commentary box. I mean, it is his birthday weekend, so he's hoping that both these drivers don't take each other out. That would be an absolute nightmare for him. As we see through Bill Mitchell Bend, Rosberg versus Alonso. Alonso has pulled out 8 seconds over Nico Hülkenberg. So I think these two are pretty much safe in 6th and 7th, but in which order will they be? Will it be Rosberg in the Pedersen, who badly needs a result to kickstart his championship campaign in his final FF1M season, or will it be that driver there, Fernando Alonso, who performed very well in Montreal, despite only having the 15th fastest race lap, basically kept out of trouble, and the fact that he qualified at the front in the first place meant that he was able to stay there and take X-Light's second podium of the season. But can he make it a 6th place going into Moraine Bend? You've seen how late he can be on the brakes, but Rosberg just about hanging on round the outside. That shows you how determined he is to try and maintain that position. But look at the gap, Perez and Gonzalez, now just 2.5 seconds. That was another 0.8 of a second that Gonzalez took out of his teammate on that lap. So Gonzalez could be challenging for the race lead as Rosberg misses the apex at the exit of Hurry Downs. Now through Carousel. Got to hug the inside at the first part, then you can go to the middle, then back to the inside for the final part. Both drivers do that no problem, but into the kink, Alonso had a look, try and distract Nico Rosberg. But yeah, the battle for the lead, it's pretty clear that Gonzalez is quicker at this stage as Alonso tries to get up the inside into Canada Bend, but can't make that one stick, and Rosberg grimly hanging on to that 6th place. Now into the final corner, Alonso needs a good run, but he needs a good slipstream as well on this very, very long Road America straight. Pulls out just at the crest of the hill and crossing the start-finish line. And can he outbrake Rosberg into the first corner this time around? Yes, he can. Fernando Alonso takes 6th place, but can Rosberg maintain enough of a slipstream to get him back into Moraine Bend? Well, let's see as you go through the second proper corner. I think he's just about hold on to that one, but now we're on the penultimate lap and Perez has responded to that threat of Gonzalez, because he's still 2.8 seconds ahead. So in the past few laps, Perez has extended the gap by a few tenths of a second. And Perez could be the second driver to get his second race win of the season if it stays like this. In fact, the top 3, they could get their second win of the season if things go dramatically wrong in the final 1.5 laps. Through Carousel goes Perez. And as for the rest of the top 8, it is Hamilton in third, 13.7 seconds now behind Sergio Perez, so that middle stint gamble of running short didn't quite pay off because he's now dropped from second to third behind Thomas Gonzalez. But Sebastian Vettel, certainly one of the drivers of the day if he can stay in 4th place. Could be that Shake and Bake have gone quite aggressive with the ERS race use. But Yoshida's not doing too badly either. He's in 10th place at the moment, just 1 place behind Felipe Massa and 2 places off of the points. And starting his final lap now is Sergio Perez, part of the class of 2010 along with Hülkenberg and Grosjean. As for those 2 drivers, Hülkenberg's done quite well. He's gone from 18th on the grid up to 8th place in the race, and the other driver, Roman Grosjean, of course, got in that incident with Robert Kubica in the early stages. He's shown as having made 2 pit stops, so he brought his first pit stop forward. But he's down in 13th place is Roman, so looking as if he is going to finish this American Grand Prix out of the points. Only half a lap to go now for Sergio Perez. That was when Nico Rosberg pulled off from 2nd place in last season's race with an engine failure, heartbreakingly so for Willows, in what was a bit of a hot and cold season for them. This season it's very much in the freezer, with Verstappen in 15th and Van Dorn the first driver out of the race. The rest of the top 8, he had Vettel in 4th, Ricciardo 5th, the only Andrew in the points, but still points nonetheless, and they'll close that gap between themselves and FJR a little bit, so there could still be a battle for 3rd in the championship. Alonso P6 for Exolite, good drive from him from 13th on the grid. Rosberg, poor race pace in the Pedersen from pole down to 7th, and Hülkenberg in 8th. But out the final corner, and here comes your second repeat winner of the season, because taking his second win of the season is Sergio Perez for Tornado. Crossing the line, there you go. And no doubt a championship contender along with his teammate Gonzalez, who, there he goes, in 2nd place. So Tornado 1-2, and that will do their Constructors' Championship a lot of good. And that's his 3rd career win, so Sergio Perez he's been a bit modest compared to the other 2 members of the class of 2010, but with a front-running car and a championship contending car, he's showing what he's capable of. Gap was 3.4 seconds in the end between himself and Gonzalez. Lewis Hamilton takes 3rd and solidifying his status as a championship contender. Top drive from Sebastian Vettel in 4th place for Shake and Bake, ahead of Daniel Ricciardo, Fernando Alonso, Rosberg and Hülkenberg. That's only his 2nd points finish of the season. He had a 6th at Nürburgring and could have easily had 2 podiums this season, but for bad luck. But Hülkenberg getting points is good for FJR. And as for the rest of the runners, you have 6 retirements in this race, 3 mechanical and 3 non-mechanical. They consist of Cooper Lee out with an engine failure and Da Costa with a puncture, Latifi with a transmission problem, either gearbox or drive shaft, so Kubica, Magnussen and Van Dorn all getting involved in collisions. Except for Van Dorn, who crashed out at the carousel. So 3 Mugen retirements, and 1 Climax, 1 Judd and 1 Ilmore. So all Megatron runners finished, they'll do their development good. Championship standings, Thomas Gonzalez is now on 51 points, extends that from 3 to 5 points over Lewis Hamilton, but Sergio Perez now moves up to 3rd in a championship thanks to his 2nd win of the season. Kevin Magnussen 4th with 37 points. Daniel Ricciardo, impressive, in 5th place in the Andrew Racing. Cooper Lee 6th and Nico Rosberg badly needed a win to maintain his championship challenge, but it's poor race pace from pole position down to 7th, and there is the state of the Constructors' Championship, and a much more comfortable lead now for Tornado over their southwestern buddies Mitchell. The gap's 17 points. FJR hold on to 3rd on 41 points now, and Andrew Racing and Pedersen 4th and 5th. Excellent, more points for them. They could join the battle for 3rd if things go to plan for them. And there'll be a bit of a gap between the United States Grand Prix and the next race, which will take place at Austria, one of the shorter circuits of the season, and that's at the Red Bull Ring. So, we shall see you for then.